The prospect of interviewing fallen socialite Anna Delvey or Anna Sorokin of Netflix's notorious Inventing Anna series is both a coup and a responsibility for the View's Rebel Justice podcast. Anna shocked New York high society when her elaborate ruse to set up an arts foundation fell apart, and details of her check-kiting hit society gossip column page 6 of the New York Post, the go-to for every discerning New Yorker for their local gossip. At The View, we believe that all women are capable of redemption, and we steer clear of language that humiliates and judges. Offender, fraudster, ex-con, criminal, we're all far bigger than the worst thing that we've ever done. We don't believe in the language of the Victorian philanthropist offered to the deserving poor. We don't aspire to methods of coercive rehabilitation. Rather, we wish to create an open space to give people a platform to recast their own narratives and retell their own stories. I am Farah Damji, one of the women who started The View almost 4 years ago, and that mission has been at the heart of this podcast. Very many of you will be familiar with Anna's story. It was told by dozens of news outlets in millions of words all over the world, and of course the Netflix series Inventing Anna. However, not much has been said by Anna herself about her own experience, the trauma she went through and how she coped with it through her art, drawn from her training as a fashion illustrator in Paris. I wanted to approach her carefully, not to re-trigger trauma or pain, and it was important for me as a host to draw out the vulnerability that I sensed behind the oversized designer sunglasses and the bejeweled GPS tag that she was forced to wear while she was under house arrest. I deliberately tried not to listen or read too much background, but I couldn't help but glean the sharp intellectual observations in articles for the Daily Mail that she had made about the justice system, about gender violence inflicted by the state, and around the constant feeling of being an immigrant or an outsider. And that's where this interview begins. I've read some really interesting things that you've written about the experience of women and kind of gender in prison. So how would you describe it?
Well, it was very frustrating in a sense that like you're always relying on somebody else to do things for you. It was just like it's just very infantilizing. It's like, just jail takes away everything it takes away all your freedom. It's like, if you want a book, there's no possible way for you to like get a book unless somebody will send it to you. Like there's just nothing you can do in the world like that will get it for you.
Yes, your choices are just taken away, aren't they? You're kind of like the most basic choices of sleeping, eating, going to the toilet, everything is just taken away. It's extremely infantilizing. And I think much more so for women. I think it's a lot harder for women. When you get out, life is madly crazy, hectic, and like time just takes on all different. Like time in prison is so slow. Well, for me, Anna, it was so slow. Like days would feel like months, and then you come out and it's like suddenly you turn around, it's Friday again. I don't know if it's been like that for you.
How long did you do?
The longest sentence I did was 15 and a half months, which was an unlawful recall when they were cross with me for tweeting something about my probation officer. I was pretty pissed off, but then I got out. The parole board let me out and told them that I was not a risk to society or anyone else and that I shouldn't have been recalled. And yours was what, was yours 4.5 years? So you did how many? You did half of that?
Well, I got 4 to 12. So the laws are different, like it varies from state to state. So my sentence was 4 to 12. My minimum would be 4 years. My max would be 12. Assuming I would like follow all the instructions and XYZs, like I was let out on my merit, which was 3 years 4 months.
And also because of COVID, I think they were trying to let people out earlier as well there, weren't they?
Well, it was really funny. They did, because they said if you are 6 months away from your release date, we would release you, but they did not release me. My release date was like beginning of February, and I wasn't obviously in violation of my immigration status, and ICE used to come see me all the time. So they kind of kept me in. When Biden took the office in end of January 2021, he imposed like a moratorium on all deportations, and like he tried to like make some changes. So beginning of February, they didn't really know what to do with me. So they just released me. They gave me a day to report 6 weeks from my release date, which was like on March 23rd. Originally, they pushed it to 25th. And then once I went to report there, I guess they were like more clear on the rules, and they decided like they were okay to deport me. So I've been in the system for a very long time. It's like I've been there for like half a decade, pretty much. Yeah, I got arrested in like beginning of October 2017, and I got released in October 20 like this year. So it's like it's been 5 years, except for like 6 weeks I've been out last year.
What were the challenges besides the prison officers who are just universally useless? I think it's a job where people go into hopefully with good intentions, but they're just so squashed by the system that it's very hard for them to make any changes. But what challenges did you have to overcome on a daily basis? What did you find the hardest to deal with there?
What I found out is like people are just people in a way, and everybody is like trying to figure it out. So like the most officers, especially like in prison, which was like in upstate New York and Albion, it's like it was either Walmart or the prison. It's like, it was not really like the top career choice. It was just like all they knew, really. And yeah, I think like the whole idea of prison, where it's like supposed to be a punishment on you, but like in the end, the people who get punished is like your relatives and your friends who like have to pay for the calls. They have to like put money in your account. It's like, you're not going to say no to somebody who's in jail and who has like no way of getting anything for themselves. It's like, there's just no way you can like get a job or anything. Like, the most I've ever made in the state prison would be like $10 in 2 weeks. That was
my God.
Yeah, it's like literally, it's impossible to be self-sustainable. I know it's different in federal prison because they have like some kind of a different way of compensation. They actually have some way of like making more money, but in the state, it's not like that at all.
So
Just
what
like
were you doing? What was your job in prison?
I started off, they made me go to GED. Well, they made me do like GED classes because they had to wait until they had to confirm that I actually graduated high school from Germany. So it took a couple of weeks. So I had to like attend that. And it's like, it's mandatory. You have no choice but to attend those. So once they confirmed that I actually graduated high school, they put me in the mess hall. I hated it. It was bad. I don't know. The mess hall is like where you're like, it's in the dining hall, right? You started off there, like, and in the same way it goes to like any kitchen, you start off from like the very bottom, which would be like the dishwashing. So it's like I asked them for like the yellow gloves, and I was like, I'm just not washing anything until like unless you just give me the gloves and like all this stuff. It's like all this like heavy duty stuff, like the big pans. And I was just like, I was so slow and useless, and everybody was just like so annoyed with me. I'm like, this is really hard work. Like for some reason they transferred me like a week later to an actual class. So it's like, you have to take the culinary arts, or like you have to like take a vocational training pretty much in order for them to like be able to say it's like, oh, well, now she has a skill, which is not her crime.
So we might be seeing an Anna Delvey Michelin-starred restaurant very soon, I hope.
Pretty much, yes. It's like they give you some choice, and it's like I picked the one with the most waiting list because I felt like, oh, well, they will never pick me because it's like everybody wanted to be in culinary arts, and there would be like cosmetics class and like welding, like, I don't know, building maintenance or something like that. So, and it's like, they picked me like a week later, and I was so disappointed.
So what did you learn in this culinary class? What did they teach you? I worked in the kitchen at Drake Hall, and we did really basic things like shepherd's pie and lasagna. But then they discovered that I'm actually quite good at baking. So I used to bake pastries for the governor. He had a real sweet tooth. So it was always eclairs and choux pastry and stuff, which I loved. But yeah, there's not much variety in a prison menu. So what did they teach you in this culinary arts class?
So it's pretty much, I mean, I don't know. I learned like a lot of actually like basic stuff, how like to preserve food. It would be the food safety.
Yeah.
How long you're allowed to like keep something out in like the heating and like the cooling of stuff. So that was actually really useful in a way. It's like, it's like you can use it in everyday life too. It's like how long you can like preserve, like, I don't know, olive oil with garlic in it and stuff. And because I was a vegetarian, I told them I would not be touching meat. So they put me like on a bakery, like a baker assistant position. So I was like baking cookies. It was really funny because we had like a little cafe which would be open to like the officers, like to the employees of the prison. So we would like sell them the stuff that we would be making. Also, civilians were like teaching like all these other classes, the cosmetology, the welding, the building maintenance, and stuff like that. So it would be catered to them. There were kind of like, I don't know, few of them. So we would like cater to them. So it's like this one woman, she would be like on a keto diet. So we made like a cauliflower pizza for her. And we try to keep it healthy.
Yeah, it's so funny the things you remember that stay with you. I bet you can't look at a cauliflower in the same way anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying like to like not project those experiences because it's like in a way it was bad, but it was not like awful, It's like I don't know. I guess just like not being able to have control of your choices, like it's like you have to do those things. So there's like just like if you don't, like they're gonna like lock you in the room and like say you're like not in compliance. So that was frustrating. Just like not having control of your life, the experiences themselves. It's like not everything is just so awful in there. Like there's just a lot of people who like made a mistake, and it's not like just the biggest murderers of the country,
Anna was convicted in 2019 on multiple counts of grand larceny and theft of services. She was sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison and credited with more than 500 days of time served while her case was pending, and she was then released on good behaviour in February 2021. Anna was picked up by immigration authorities just a few weeks later.
Well, we said they were in Albion in upstate New York. Which prison was that?
That was Albion, New York. Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Oh, right. And is that a female prison?
Yeah, they're just female, yeah. Wendy's, which is males, I think like Harvey Weinstein was not too far away from me. There are like so many male prisons, and there are only 3 female prisons in New York, which is Bedford, which is maximum correctional facility. Then there's Taconic, which is across the street from Bedford, and which is minimum. And then Albion is maximum to medium.
So they kept you in maximum to medium for your whole sentence?
They kept me in medium, yeah. Because the way they count it is like if you have less than 8 years until your earliest parole hearing, you're a medium. So I was always medium. It's like because my earliest parole hearing would be after 3 years, 4 months.
Oh, I see. It's completely different. That's such a fascinating insight into how different the US is from here, because here, well, we have very few. Obviously, England's a much, much smaller country, but there's only 12 women's prisons, and they're all basically maximum security except 2, which are open conditions where women can go out to work and do education, stuff like that. What was the first thing you did when you left prison?
I was actually outside for 6 weeks. I mean, they always knew I was in violation of my immigration status. And it's like, that's not a secret, obviously. Like, I overstayed my visa due to no fault of my own. And they were like, well, yeah, like, we know you're in violation. They came to see me like a couple of times. Then I guess 2 days before my scheduled release date, they came and they were like, oh, well, you're not a priority anymore. Because it was exactly after Biden took the office, because my release date was scheduled for February 15th or something. And he took the office like end of January. So I guess he like put a moratorium for like any deportation. So I guess they did not know what to do with me. They were like, whatever, we're going to release you. And they just gave me like a day 6 weeks away from then.
So then 6 weeks later, they came and arrested you and you went back into the immigration detention center. So that's quite a different experience, because when you're in prison, at least if you have an end date, you can kind of wrap your head around it, and there's an end goal and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can cross off your days and whatever else you do. But the immigration detention center, that whole situation where it's so precarious, where there's no end date, must have been psychologically quite difficult to manage. How did you handle that?
Yeah, it was very difficult. I think it would be like the most one of the most challenging ones of the kind of like psychological exercises that like I ever had ever. because it's like, with criminal sentence, you have an end date, while with immigration, you could like spend 10 years there. And like, there's no guarantee that you will ever be let out here, It's not like, oh, well, sit in jail for like 18 months and then we're going to let you out. That's not the way it works. It's like, I don't even know. Like, I think it's such a shame that America like equalizes immigration infractions to criminal misdeeds, because it's like, why? Like, I already served my sentence, I already repeat my restitution. Why am I in the same conditions as somebody who's like being accused of a crime?
Yeah, it's terrible. We've got the same problem here. We've got the most absolutely revolting Home Secretary called Suella Braverman, who's putting 4,000 people in a detention center where there's meant to be 1,600. And literally, they're actually sending bottles of messages over the wall to journalists and begging to be let out. And it's just such a huge embarrassment that these first world governments and first world countries are treating people who've fled places of war and famine and terror, and we're treating them like criminals. It's so shameful. It's just, I'm so ashamed of the way that our government is behaving at the moment towards asylum seekers and migrants, because it's just horrific. They've got scabies, they've got diphtheria, they've got the most awful diseases. These people have left awful places, poverty-stricken places, to come here for respite and sanctuary, and we treat them worse than animals. It's just shameful. So what was the first thing that you did when you got out of the detention center?
So this time around, it's like literally they had to drive me. So it's like they picked me up from the jail and then they drove me to the 26th Federal Plaza, which is like the main ICE hub. They fitted me for an ankle bracelet, and I had like to wait for the guy to like who's specializing in ankle bracelets to come over, which was like on Friday, 11 p.m. And then because since I was on house arrest, they drove me to the apartment. Like they wouldn't even let the people who like were waiting for me downstairs to pick me up. Yeah, they like ICE drove me to my apartment because I guess I couldn't be trusted to like make my own way there. I mean, whatever, it's just the conditions. So they were just following the conditions that the judge imposed. So it's like, it's a trickle down thing. It's just like, they're just following the rules. Like not everybody is just so awful. Once I arrived, I mean, obviously a friend of mine, Chris, he had to like open the door. And then New York Times showed up and like some German publications. And we did like a little interview and like I went to sleep. So it was very late. It was like midnight, way past midnight.
You must have been exhausted. How do you feel about this ankle bracelet? Have they got one of these new GPS tracking ones on you?
I don't know like which generation of bracelet it is. It looks pretty bulky to me.
Yes, but you blinged it up very nicely. It looks nice now that you've decorated it.
Yeah, well, those are the pins, but they're like very hard to like kind of maintain on a long-term basis. So it's like I just like put them on for like shoes and stuff. So I mean, it doesn't really bother me at all. It's pretty light. I charge it every morning. There's like an external charging station, and I put on like this battery on top of it. Just like there's like a portable charger, pretty much. It's just like I just put the battery on top of it, and just like I have to charge it for an hour, and it's good for a day.
And how long does all this last? I know you're fighting your extradition back to Germany. So how long is this going to last, and what do you hope is the outcome?
Well, my immigration case is like being transferred to like the non-docketed one, because once you're in jail, you are like the detained. You are on the detained docket, and like once you're out, you're non-detained one. Basically, pretty much it's like it's going to move forward, and like we'll see what it's going to bring. So it's like I don't know. It's like really not clear.
Are you worried about the outcome? You don't want to come back to Europe, do you? You want to stay? I mean, you've built a life in America.
I'd love to like sort out everything, all my legal and immigration issues, in a way that I would be able to travel anywhere in the world, because like I've done what I've done, whatever. It's like I paid the restitution, I served my time. It's just not like I don't think it warrants the type of the punishment where I should be banned from any single country for the rest of my life.
No, that's a very sensible attitude to take, actually. I think you're very sensible to deal with it that way, so that you don't have those restrictions hanging over your head forever.
And that concludes part 1 of our fascinating interview with Anna Delvey and her unique story. Next week, tune into part 2, where Anna talks about her art, her experience of house arrest, and what it's like being a migrant in the US justice system.